Hello everyone, and welcome to another video, another day, another night, right? So today we're going to talk about what was like the most pre-ordered game of last year, and to some people one of the most disappointing games of last year. And that we are going to be talking about Destiny for the PS4. So, I'm sure pretty much I don't need really to say too much about Destiny. I'm just cleaning my glasses. But, I mean, as an introduction to Destiny, I'm sure everyone's heard about it. It's pretty hard whether you like the overhyped games or you don't like them. You know, it's pretty hard to not hear them. So, first, physical goods, you don't get a whole lot. You do get a PlayStation Plus code, which is for 30-day trial. You also get a advertisement for the Season Pass, which of course they had to do that. And you get a Vanguard Armory with current copies of Destiny. Now that will probably change over time. They do have expiration dates. The Vanguard ends on 9/9/15, and I believe the 30-day trial was for a year, but either way. And that's actually a very nice start to using PlayStation Plus, because the one you get with your system is a 14-day trial, which is pretty, yeah. I mean, it's still something, but. And what's shitty about a lot of those is you can only use one trial thing, as far as I can understand, with the PS4. I think the 360 is also like that, if I remember quickly. But so that's a little shitty if you wanted to kind of use that for some online. But yeah, keep that in mind. Now, of course, I do have to bring up the fact that the 360 people are mostly being really beaten up with Destiny. And I really feel like that has to do with the fact that Destiny is actually published in Japan by Sony. So I think Sony basically bent Bungie over with deals in the Japanese market for exclusive content. While it is only timed exclusive content, because in America it is available on 360 and Xbox One. I believe everywhere else it's only available, or maybe it was only Japan. It's either only Japan or the rest of the world. I think it is just Japan where it's only in Sony. I think everywhere else. But the Xbox One is supposed to be region free, so if that was an issue, you could technically import it most likely. Now, what's interesting, I can't speak about the Xbox version again, but what is actually interesting is, now, for the 360, well, actually that might be different. Again, I'm just not going to really talk about the Xbox versions when it comes to this, but obviously with the PS3 version, you do not need PlayStation Plus, as far as I understand, though I do not know for a fact. Now, you do have to have online. There is no single player. You can play by yourself, but you are required to play online, which of course is kind of shitty when it does have a story mode, and it could have a single player campaign for that at least. But that would be short as fuck. But they could have done that. But what's interesting about the PS4 version, you don't actually need PlayStation Plus to play the basic story. You do need it if you want to do all the content. And basically, PvP, strikes, and raids are blocked unless you're a PlayStation Plus member. Now again, I'm not 100% sure if this qualifies in the PS3 version. I would assume not, because there's no PS3 games that I'm aware of that make PlayStation Plus a requirement, so I would assume that it's not, but I don't know that for a fact. So, you could play the basic story of that. The raids are just really just big challenges. There isn't like a whole shitload of story to them, but obviously they are some major villain characters, but you don't get a whole flurry of story about them. But, yeah. Anyway, enough rambling and stuff. Let's actually get into this. So, yeah, a lot of people I'm sure you've seen the last few days, a lot of people have put, like, disappointing games and stuff. And Destiny's been on a lot of disappointing games or overhyped game lists since the last, like, month and a half that people have been doing lists for 2014. And I have to say, it is kind of rightly so. Destiny is a enjoyable mess. Is maybe, like, the, like, shortest little line I would really throw at the game. Because it actually is fun. Like, here's the short version if you don't want to watch anymore. If you're going to play with friends, PvE, PvP, raids and stuff with people you know and you enjoy playing with, or you enjoy playing with strangers, Destiny will probably be very fun to you. If you're looking for a deep, involving storyline with meaningful characters and interesting world and backstory and stuff, that is a cock of shit, and you're not going to get that. Now, I also want to keep in mind, I'm strictly talking about the game its own, not the expansion, though I might talk a little about, but as a whole, this is just referring to the original release of the game and not the expansion content as a whole. But the story is short, and there's only one raid that's a part of the original content. The next raid is part of the first DLC expansion. And then the second expansion hasn't been announced yet, but that's also going to add another raid. So, and there's a few added missions and stuff in that, but again, like I said, I'm focused on the story is very short, it's very confusing, and to be honest, and this is an insult to the game. I'm not going to lie about that. The game is literally done even worse job than Final Fantasy XIII in telling its backstory. So in Final Fantasy XIII, if you don't know, in Final Fantasy XIII, you had this giant encyclopedia section in your menu where you could just research all kinds of backstory shit and stuff that basically never comes up during the actual game that explains little tidbits here and there. Well, this game does even worse. It's not even in the game. You gotta go to the Bungie website for the game to actually access that database. And you got to earn those entries. Now, to be fair, in Final Fantasy XIII, you earn them through progression of the game. But you actually have to earn a lot of them through kills, missions, and things, and completion of the game. So you could say it's kind of the same, except a lot more grindy. And that's really shitty, to be honest. I can't imagine there not being space on the disc. Obviously, I don't know personally. But the game is really short and everything, so I don't see how they couldn't even fit that somehow in the game. If you were going to go for that style. But of course, even then, obviously, people were going to still bitch about it. The story is very dry and very boring to me. Now, the expansion brings a little hope, and it's actually a lot more interesting so far. But that can't just like be the crutch that holds the story up. There's a lot of, I could tell you of these wars, I could tell you of these battles, there's no time to talk of this, there's no time to talk to that, I barely know what the fuck is going on. When it comes to the context of really, you get the story set up that this ancient thing called the Travel came to Earth, increased the productivity of humanity and prosperity and the lifespan and everything, and its long foe, the darkness, came following it and basically fucked everything up. But, there's just so much not being talked about in the game. And it certainly doesn't help that all the characters, aside from maybe the stranger and the queen and her brother being the only really, and in the unique merchant of the 9 who shows up in the tower, they're like the only characters with any semi of interest to them. Just a little semi of interest to them. In the original game. The expansion adds a new character that's also a bit interesting. But all the other townspeople are either worthless or boring. And I know I'm going to come off with a lot of bitching here. I do want to honestly say, I actually am enjoying Destiny with my friends. I've been playing it a lot, and it's why I haven't really been getting a lot of other shit done, to be honest. But it has a lot of weaknesses. It is a mess. That's fun. It's really but there's also a lot of weird balances. When it comes to like the tower. Now it has a lot of MMO elements. If you're familiar with MMOs, you're gonna have a lot of familiar elements like wanking up, loot system, different colored loot of rarity and such, dailies, heroics. There's a lot of familiar territory there if you're familiar with a lot of modern MMOs. So you're going to feel right at home, except you're going to be in a first-person shooter with RPG Borderland-like experiences. Now, of course, a lot of people when the beta came, a lot of people were saying it's like Borderlands, and it does have a lot of familiarities with Borderlands. It's a first-person shooter with RPG and loot. But, well, I would say, Borderlands 1 failed to make its world interesting enough to me, because it has a very bland and low selection of enemies. It had a lot more enemy variety. I think I would have really enjoyed Borderlands a lot more, because its story was boring and horrible also, so it's not like it was standing on that leg either. But there's a lot nicer enemy selection. You have multiple factions of enemies, and they're also at war at each other and shit, so... And each one has a few unique situation enemies and certain behavioral issues with certain types that... So there's a lot more nicer variety when it comes to that. A lot more nicer variety. Because killing so many fucking bandits and drag dog things and Borderlands could only go so fucking far. And, of course, being with RPG elements, there's a skill tree system. There are 3 classes. Each class has 2 subclasses that they can switch to. And they have different elemental technique things and stuff. There are 3 races in the game. To be honest, I would like to see some more races. Get a little more variety there. But back on to the town thing with the NPCs. There's a very lack of characteristics in any of the characters at all, really, to be honest. I mean, the Stranger is about the most significant standing out character when it comes to the story itself. I mean, a particular video topic I've been kind of rattling in my head was to talk about, like, why is Solaire from Dark Souls so flippin' popular? And the idea behind that is to talk about how to, make an interesting character. Because Destiny really fucking needs more interesting characters. Because there are virtually none. There's only a wee little teeny few of that. So, like I said, you don't want to come in this game for the story that. Just totally forgettable, throw out the window. If you like it, I'm not saying, I have not read on the website. I'll say that outright. I don't know the story by heart or everything. If it's not in the game, I don't know any more context to it, because I didn't go to the website of that. If you did, and you enjoy all that, that's fine. I'm not saying it's a horrible story, but I'm saying in the context of the game itself, it really just... If you thought 13 was bad in storytelling, giving you a giant encyclopedia... This doesn't even give you encyclopedia in the game. So. But, well, we went on a big downer, though. We're going to have a big up. Now, generally you can have 3 people in a team, and when you're in a raid, you can have 6 people. So it's not like a huge MMO effect where you have, 20 and 36 people fucking taking on the most epic bosses and shit and stuff like that. But you will come across a lot of people. You'll come across them out in the wild, and tower, and in PvP. So you will... It's like a more downscaled experience. Because, for example, the tower, there's a certain limitation of how many people can be at the tower. So there's kind of multiple hub zones of the tower. So I would assume that also works with actual environments to a certain extent, too. But... And it also makes use, if you're familiar with modern World of Warcraft's phasing system, it makes use of a phasing-like system too. Not to the degree of World of Warcraft. It usually just uses it, as far as I can tell, just for small sections of the map when you're on a particular mission. When you enter a darkness zone, you phase out of the normal open world where everyone can see you, and only the people in your party can continue being in that phase of that part of the world that you're in. Aside from that, phasing is nowhere else in the game as far as I've seen. Now, the gun variety has your pretty much standard kind of stuff. Being a sci-fi game, it has pretty standard normal guns, a few laser beamy shit in that, rockets, shotguns, auto guns, stuff like that, handguns, sniper rifles, you got the whole normal barrage. Now what's fun is, similar to kind of like Borderlands, you do have a lot of interesting perks on different weapons. When you start getting the rare weapons or exotic weapons, you'll start finding weapons with very interesting perks. Now, I don't know if that's probably nowhere close to the weird, insane randomization number shit that Borderlands had when it came out. But to be honest, I have to say, I think that's actually for its betterment. Because in Borderlands, I cared about almost nothing gear-wise in that fucking game. There was so much garbage you would loot constantly and upgrading and switching out. You never really felt attached to anything. Now, probably basically from level 1 to 20 in Destiny is going to feel like that. Don't waste any of your materials or anything upgrading anything until you get to 20. Because most of that shit in the middle there is almost pointless. I mean, if it costs just a little glimmer is pretty easy, but your like actual materials, I wouldn't waste them. You'll thank me in the future. But once you get to 20 and you start progressing into the higher levels through light, and to explain light, max level is 20, but you can actually go to 32 currently. I think 30 is the original cap, and you have to have the expansion, I think. Somebody might have to correct me on that, because I got the expansion pretty much before I got to 20, so I'm not 100% sure on that. But you need gear that has light, and the light builds up, or it adds all the light up, and once you have so much light, you get additional levels. So currently, I'm 29 as of this recording of this video. And that has some interesting consequences, ups and downs. It obviously means you need to get better gear to get light on it, but it also kind of has an extra element there of making you have less choices in a way, a little bit, if you know what I mean. Because you want more light, but there might be other things maybe attached to that, so it's kind of a tricky situation depending on how all the gear is balanced, which obviously I would have to look at all the freaking gear to really comment on that. But so far, I'm actually liking a number of exotic, legendary gear, and much more attached to a lot of the equipment at the in-game level, especially my shotgun, the Fourth Horseman, my first exotic weapon. I love the Fourth Horseman shotgun. Don't stand in front of that thing. You would die quite horribly. But in Borderlands, I never got attached to any of my weapons. I would just get the next nicer looking, like, I must have looked through so many fucking random scopes and shit. And like I said, you're going to have that kind of feeling from 1 to 20, but once you get to 20 and you start progressing with Bell, gear switching up to legendaries and getting maybe an exotic here and here and there, 1 or 2, you're going to get a lot more attached to some of the gear you get. And I like that a lot more. I mean, obviously, having higher numbers offers a lot of variety, but, having too much variety sometimes can also be a bad thing, Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, right? Yeah. It's a bit of a mix and match, though. Bit of a mix and match. And also on top of that, in case anyone's wondering, all this is from the perspective of playing a warlock, by the way. Now, another thing, it does offer some customization. Originally, I was kind of mad that there wasn't a lot of nice customization with your gear. But you do actually get an option, which is referred to as a shader. Shaders is a color scheme that goes across all your gear. So you basically can find a kind of color shade scheme that you like, and you'll just have to get it. Sadly, that will mostly rely on the random selling merchant, or if it randomly drops through the loot system. And the loot actually is something we need to talk about too. When the game came out, lots of criticism at the loot system in this game. There was a lot of criticism. And that is mainly that a good portion of it is very random. And by that, I mean, like, you know, when you get to... Let's use a PvP match as a good example. So let's say you got the most kills on your team, you the highest score, and you topped everything, you're number one in your team, but the lowest scoring person got the only reward at the end of the match. That's what I mean by random. It doesn't base your performance with your reward. It's odds for everybody whether you get something or not. And I could see some criticism because, like, if you ever played World of Warcraft, modern World of Warcraft for sure, during PvP, you could earn experience in World of Warcraft, which you didn't originally, but you can nowadays. One of the big issues with, like, Farmer and, you know, guilds selling counts and shit, a lot of times they do a whole AFK system in PvP, and they have an Autobot thing and shit so they can stay logged in and shit and just get free experience while not playing the game by having it just rejoin PvP and stand around combat and shit, or just constantly jump in the middle of combat or whatever so it can get free experience. I have not seen anyone really act like that in Destiny, but there are a few situations with the public events I could see where somebody could join it and then just run away and hang out somewhere dancing on a walk while other people do the work and shit. But as far as I could see, there isn't a lot of abuse like that, and I'm sure there is people that have abused things. I mean, when there's something to be abused, somebody is going to abuse it. You're never going to stop that. When something can be abused, somebody will abuse it as much as they humanly can for their own benefit. But overall, the community has seemed very nice and not very lazy asshole like that. And there could be an up and down that. One of the ups could be there's no chat room. I don't personally think that's up, but I mean, that's probably why you don't really think of it as more negative, because nobody's able to type anything. Now, all PS4s came with a headset, but obviously not everyone uses the headset, so... I mean, like, Pixie, I've been playing with my friends Pixie and Matt, and Pixie doesn't like using the headset of that. So I think in that kind of option, it would have been nice to have, like, a little chat window of that. And you might say, but Josh, who has time to type messages? Well, he has time on Skype. And plus, the last time I was able to chat in the middle of raids. It's not usually a good idea, but sometimes you have to communicate to get something across, you know? I mean, when you need to say something, you need to say something. So, you need to say, that guy needs to die in 5 seconds or the whole raid is going to explode. Kill him! Then, you know, it might be important to say that. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's no keyboard chat room thing in this game, and that's a little odd considering it having MMO similarity. It's not like it breaks the world, because, you know, you're not dealing with so many people, and the content's not super duper hard. The raids are the hardest thing in the game, like any normal MMO, at least in the modern eras. But I have not gotten to do a raid yet. But I've read over what the raids are like, and they do remind me of a lot of complicated mechanics in Sword and Wade bosses, and some Final Fantasy XI fights, and a few World of Warcraft fights. A lot of complicated shit that punishes you for fucking up. So, aside from Wade's, I wouldn't say you really need to communicate very heavily. But Wade's, yeah, you're gonna need to communicate at some degree of level. Or have it planned before you go in. So that can be a little problem if you don't like using a headset. But in the end, it's just a really enjoyable game to play with people. Whether it's in PvP or with PvE. But if you don't want to play with people, don't buy this game. Seriously. Now, this was obviously, full retail $60 game. Now you can get, I think, around $40, $50, depending on where you go and shit. I would not pay more than $39 for this game. I personally think $30 is a better price, though. Because you're going to want the expansions. You're obviously going to want the expansions. And if you buy the season pass, you save a little money and you get the 2 expansions. Personally, I really think at least the first expansion should have been a part of the original game. Because then the extent of its life, of its original story, would be just a little more better sized, in my opinion. I guess really, if you spent like a whole day, you could probably blow through the whole story in one day if you don't count the strikes and raids, like just the normal missions and shit. And hell, you probably could throw in the strikes in there, though. Its normal story is short. And there's a lot of repetitive, redoing missions that you've done on harder difficulties and such. It's an MMO element. And a lot of people, obviously, when the game first came out, a lot of people were like, oh my god, grinding in that, man. It's like you ever play RPG. RPG, like, no matter what kind of RPG you play, there's really some degree of grinding. It might be very minor to very extensive. And obviously, very extensive is very annoying. But in the kind of idea of it being a team experience kind of thing. But basically, those are my thoughts on Destiny. As I said all the way 2 times, if you plan on playing with people, especially friends or family and such, you'll probably enjoy the game. It's a pretty fun PvE experience. Now, the PvP can be argued a little bit as unbalanced. I've heard a lot of criticism and justification for different things. If you wanted people, like if you played World of Warcraft's PvP and shit, and you just bitch about all kinds of shit being unbalanced, whether you're being fair or not fair, I'm not trying to criticize anyone individually, whether it will be a fair, legitimate issue or not, you will probably find the PvP more annoying. If you just, you play, you enjoy, and you get whatever kills, and laugh, and ha-de-ha-ha, and oh my goodness, my body flipping around and shit and stuff, you'll probably enjoy the PvP a lot more. But yeah, I've heard different criticism. Like some people have said, using super storing PvP is kind of fucked up and that. To me, it doesn't really bother me much. But like I said, that kind of thing really varies from person to person. That I usually tend to not really like to complain much about it, because really you're never going to get any kind of player versus player experience to ever truly be balanced unless all the characters involved are 100% the same. And obviously for most case scenarios that would be boring, so. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Destiny. I know I didn't go into crap loads of detail. I just mostly went into what I think was a lot of weaknesses in the game. I do think it would have been nice if they added a bit of a text chat hub thing. Also, for some reason, they made the clan system not in-game either. You have to also go to the Bungie site for that, and that's also very bizarre. I don't really like the whole kind of working with a website kind of thing, but can't really change it now, yeah? But in the end, I really do enjoy Destiny. But I would not buy it for more than $39. I got for $44 on a holiday special. And, like I said, the normal story mode is short, but it's all about the playing with friends or competitively, really. If that's not what you're in, if that's not your cup of tea, then this isn't for you. But those are my thoughts. If you have any questions about Destiny, please leave a comment down below. I hope I didn't bore you too much. But, obviously I wanted to talk about it. So, and also, if you're going to buy the PS4 version of Destiny, feel free to send me a friend invite on the PSN Plus. Well, you don't have to necessarily be Plus, but, it's Atticus MJ. It's just same thing as normal that. But please send me a message that you'll, view on my YouTube channel, because I hate it when somebody sends a friend invite and, I don't know who the hell you are. Know what I mean? Anyway, thank you. And I hope you all have a very good day. Praise the sun. And may the traveler's light be with you.
You're in the lead. Falling behind. Heavy ammo inbound. Heavy ammo available. Gained the lead. Lost the lead. You're in the lead. You're falling behind. Gains the lead. Lost the lead. You're in the lead. Heavy ammo on the way. Heavy ammo available. Show them the true meaning of war. Good work, Guardian. Your light is strong.